The University of Kentucky is a truly amazing place with a lot of amazing attributes. One of these attributes is the diversity of its student body. As a university, we pride ourselves on the ability to harbor creativity and education for people of all creeds, colors, and sexualities. We hope that this environment creates a healthy place to live, learn, and thrive. One of the largest portions of our student body is Greek life. This age-old tradition is beneficial to the community and the university at large. Despite their efforts to make their communities a better place, fraternities and sororities have gotten the reputation of being quite close-minded when it comes to certain alternative issues that plague our society. I decided to sit down with a few of my fraternity brothers and gather their insight into these issues. I first decided to sit down and discuss with them a deceptively simplistic topic, sex versus gender. I first asked them to give me their definition of the word gender.
With gender comes different genitalia, so I would assume that males are larger than females.
Gender is what makes you male and what makes you female, not necessarily your physical characteristics, but maybe like wanting to play sports more or wanting to go shopping more with your friends, as girls tend to do with their girlfriends, and guys would go play sports.
Gender would be male or female and two X chromosomes or an X and a Y chromosome.
My definition of gender would be the sexuality of a human being.
If you're male or if you're female.
These responses were what I would expect from someone who hasn't taken a course that directly outlines the definitions of sex versus gender. But when I asked them to compare the two, the responses seemed more adequate to the proper definitions.
Gender can speak to more, I guess, how they act, and so in sex is what they biologically are.
Sex is your physical characteristics. So like obviously you got the male body and the female body, and that's the physical sex characteristics. And gender is kind of like what I said. It's kind of like what you do to identify yourself as that sex.
Sex is what sexual organs you were born with, and gender is kind of how you are shaped or how you were raised.
Say there's a male, like Bruce Jenner. He was a male, but the whole entire time he was saying that like his sex, his like makeup, his hormones, his whole body was a female. So I feel like your sex is like almost your internal. You're not like your organs or anything, but like your makeup, your genetics, like what is inside of you. But your gender is like your outside features.
Despite their more fleshed out descriptions of these two words, there was still something missing from their responses. Their knowledge of these two topics seems fairly limited, but this might not be all their fault. As the fraternity and sorority system is set up in a bi-gender scenario with male and female organizations independently, their contact with people of differing genders might be a bit limited. To delve further into this topic, I decided to ask them about modern gender roles in our society today.
In the last 50 years or so, obviously gender roles have been questioned more so than any time in history. So I'd say still that men have their certain roles in society and women have their roles in society, but I feel like now more so than any point in history, gender roles are starting to dissipate.
That's kind of like when you're out in public, like looking around, like you expect women to be like wearing their dresses or their heels. You expect guys to be, clean cut, short hair, like always looking nice. And then like if you ever see like girls maybe we're walking around with like baggy pants or like a man's hoodie, you're kind of like, oh, she's trashy, when like all she's wearing is guys' clothing. Just like it's just our conceptual vision on how I guess like gender works in our real world.
Women have a lot more power in professional fields and just in daily life in comparison to 30 years ago.
modern gender roles are more equal than they used to be. They used to be more women stayed at home and cooked and cleaned, but nowadays women are out working and men are working in the workforce, so it's more of an equal, there's more of an equilibrium now than there was then.
You're the man of the family. You're the one who's paying the bills. You're the one who's getting things done. You're bringing in the income. You're feeding the kids. You support everyone. That would be like a male stereotype or a male gender norm. And then a female one would be like, females are sort of changing now with more female rights and whatever, but with like the stereotypical like female norm would be like a stay-at-home mom who takes care of the kids. Like I know my mom worked before my parents got married, and then they were debating on who was going to stay home. Like obviously my mom did stay home because that was just more of a norm like in the time. So I guess a female norm would just be like, I don't know, just a stay-at-home mom.
These responses were what one would expect from a demographic such as this. What fraternity culture fails to realize is that the presence of a powerful female figure can provide valuable insight into different issues that go on within the fraternity. Another issue that we deal with as college students and humans alike is the dangers of sexually transmitted disease. Due to the close proximity of its residents, a university campus is the perfect place for STDs to be transmitted quickly and efficiently. A helpful way to prevent the spread of disease is getting tested for STDs. So I decided to ask if my brothers had been tested previously.
No.
I have.
Yes, 4 times.
No, sir.
I haven't.
It seemed as though many of the younger students had not even considered being tested for an STD. This presents a real danger and should be addressed immediately with the administration of the university. As well as several other sexually transmitted diseases, HIV/AIDS plagues many people across the nation, with over 56,000 new cases reported each and every year. With such a serious medical phenomenon, I decided to ask my fraternity brothers how many people they thought tested positive each and every year.
20%, 24%.
12%.
Probably like 5%.
8% of them.
Like 30% then.
Their responses seem to be well-educated guesses, as many of them have studied this in several anthropology classes. But where it fails is that that's exactly what they are, guesses. It is important that we put more funding into AIDS and HIV education university-wide so that we can be more up-to-date on these issues. The University of Kentucky prides itself on the diversity of its students and its ability to connect with each and every one. But many believe the University of Kentucky's relationship with its LGBT students has fallen by the wayside over the years. I decided to get some insight from my fraternity brothers on their opinions on the university's relationship with its LGBT student base. Their responses were as follows.
I don't think they're being mistreated. I think they're being treated with the utmost respect.
And see, I've seen a lot of LGBT stuff going on campus, and it looks like they are very they're not trying to hide it. They're open with it, and it's not too bad where it's like a problem to the public, but at the same time it's just kind of like all other heterosexual relationships. So I think UK's relationship with that community is probably pretty positive.
I truthfully have no idea what the relationship between those two are, so I can't really answer that.
I don't know much about it, but I haven't really seen anything that has shown anything like any sort of segregation towards the LGBTQ community.
I mean, as overall, there isn't like any negativity.
These responses seem positive, but they fail to capture the true issue on the university's campus. I decided then to ask how many LGBT people they think they interacted with on a daily basis. With this information, I feel as though we would gather some insight into how many LGBT people interact with average fraternity members on a daily basis.
I say 0 to 1.
I can really only say one. He's in my own fraternity. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met.
I interact with at least one gay person every day. I live with one.
One.
Probably one, just because I see Sean every day, who's in our fraternity.
With a pretty consistent number of 0 to 1, it is apparent that the fraternity population's interactions with LGBT people is quite limited. This can create a large disconnect between the LGBT community and the Greek life community on campus. As fraternities and sororities, it is our job to serve our community and help those around us. I decided to sit down with Sean Barber, an openly gay member of the Sigma Nu fraternity, to discuss some issues about the LGBT community on campus. All right, so Sean, why don't you give us a little insight on what it's like being an openly gay person in a college fraternity, and how do you think it's affected your experiences in the fraternity life?
In my fraternity, I am the only open gay guy, and I think that it's been honestly an awesome experience because I've kind of it's exposed me to a lot of things, but I've also been able to expose other people to kind of like a different side of homosexuality. A lot of people kind of have a preconceived notion about it, but I think that I've changed a lot of people's minds that like I can be like a normal functioning person, you know, and you know, yeah, I guess that's it.
Awesome. So how do you think UK's relationship is with its LGBT students? Do you think it's strong? Do you think it needs work? What are your opinions on that?
I think that it could use some work. I think that just knowing friends at other universities, they do have like Pride Weeks, or they have just a more kind of visible student like run club, I guess, and I think that they don't really have much visibility on campus, so a lot of people kind of don't really have an attachment with the community, so I think that there could be a lot of improvement.
Okay, awesome. Do you feel like you've been discriminated against in any way because of your sexuality? Has that like affected your day-to-day life?
No, I don't think that I've experienced any discrimination here on campus. If I have, it's been very minor, and I've been lucky in that aspect. I think that just the people I've surrounded myself with, and the things I've been involved with, I've been able to kind of immerse myself, and I've always been surrounded by positive characters, so I'm really thankful for that. So.
Sean provided some interesting insight into what it's like being an openly gay man in a fraternity. It is apparent that a fraternity can accept an LGBT member once they get to know them. And Sean has felt little to no discrimination all of his years at UK. He says this is in part due to his inclusion in a fraternity. He also opened up some insight into UK's lack of a Pride Week. With a university-sponsored Pride Week, the university can truly connect with its LGBT students and make them feel more accepted as university students. It is important that as a place of learning, we make an effort to make sure all of our students feel accepted and at home at the university. It is important that we provide them with a healthy place to learn and live. I enjoyed gathering the insight from my fraternity brothers through these series of interviews. It was a truly eye-opening experience to hear their responses to questions that usually aren't posed to them. It is important that we fuel healthy conversations among fraternities and sororities on campus to maintain a sense of community among them and the university as a whole. With the inclusion of LGBT pride events and various other educational outlets on campus, we can strive for further excellence as fraternity brothers and as a university community